Hi everyone, it's Abby again. I'm really excited about this week because we are discussing young adult literature. So I love that we're starting off the class with what my focus is. So the thing that I really like about young adult literature is that it can span all the other genres. So you have romance, mystery, thriller, dystopic, all of it. Under the framework of young adult. So when you write under any genre within the young adult realm. So I think that even though like we're hitting my focus early on, that in the future those other genres will also play into what we're doing with what I'm doing with young adult literature. So the first thing I want to talk about, I found an article or a white paper from the Young Adult Library Services Association, and the one thing that they talk about that I haven't read anywhere else, but it completely makes sense to me, is even though young adult literature has really grown in also the adult world, it has a lot of adult readers, it's also a way to help kids bridge in the door to reading. So there's also a fluency aspect, and there's also still sort of some reading instruction. There's a whole bunch of statistics here that so many kids, 65% of graduating high school seniors and 71% of Americans' 8th graders are reading below grade level. So I think this is actually something that young adult literature can help with. So I think when you're writing, think about like how you can speak, how you can formulate your words to help those kids with their fluency. So you need a topic, you need something that they can read that is going to be exciting to them, at the same time instructional in that, they're still learning. You know what I mean? So to go along with that, one of the things that I've noticed is that teens should sound like adults. That's one of the things. And I found that actually written in a blog called Terribleminds, and I will post the link, or not the link, but I'll post the citation below. The teens sound like adults. And to back that statement up, you don't hear slang, you don't hear, anything that sounds really all that juvenile. They really sound adult-like. So I'm thinking like Dawson's Creek or Lori from the Gilmore Girls. They sounded like really well-educated adults in those shows, dealing with very real adolescent problems. So it's funny to me. I love those shows just because of that. It made me laugh. So because of that also, there is a lack of adults in the young adult genre. So like caring parents that help dig their children out of their problems or things like that don't generally exist in the young adult literature. And the reason is because these kids want to feel grown up. They feel grown up. They're in this in-between stage where they don't know, but they're like hovering between childhood and adulthood, and they want to skip ahead to adulthood. So it's important to show kids that are taking care of their own problems, and it's also important to show kids that are messing up. And that's another thing. They mess up in these books. It's more, usually these books are written, a lot of times these books are written from a first-person point of view, and you see their problems, you see where they mess up, and I think it's important to show those things, just such as in the Terribleminds blog post. They mention that, the teens are having sex, they're drinking, and they're doing drugs. So I know that adults want to shy away from these topics and not write about them, and since adults are generally writing for young adults, they want to shy away, but the fact of the matter is teens are doing this. Even Amish teens are doing this, which is what the article points out, and I have to say that's true. So you can't shy away from it, but what you can do is write about it and write thoughtful pieces that can maybe help them think about their decisions, but again, not in a preachy way, because if you get preachy or teachy, they're going to zone you out. Their mother, you're not their teacher. They don't want a lesson plan, okay? They want to be entertained. They want you to tell a story. And they want that story to show to have something to do with what they see every day, what they're facing every day. And everything is not, oh, Sunday school, youth group, skipping through the forest. No, they're dealing with these big, huge emotions that lead them into sex, the peer pressure for drugs, all these things that are reality. And as a writer, I think you need to approach these things in that realistic vision. Because remember, this is the first time these kids are faced with this stuff. So they really, like I've said before, their emotions are huge concerning these things. And I think we need to realize that and step back from the teaching when we're writing young adult literature, except for the fluency thing, because I think that's really important. Sometimes the books are quicker paced. They're written in first-person perspective, and they're generally shown in present tense. So you're not going to get very many like memoirs in the teen books and young adult fiction, but what you're going to have is someone writing as if they were still there in that moment, or like, you know, in the future. It's all present tense. How they write it is present tense. How the characters present themselves is in present tense. It's not someone looking towards the future, someone talking about the past. It's someone in the past or in the future or in the now. The pacing is quicker and full of dialogue. So, and also I think the whole first person point of view is actually important because it gets in deep with what the kids are thinking. So when they make these decisions, good or bad, you can read what the thought process was for the person to go through that. Oh, the other thing this article, the Terribleminds article pointed out was that a lot more adults are reading young adult fiction. And it's not necessarily because they have like a lower reading level or they're easily entertained. It's because young adult can be more daring, as it were. Like it's pretty new. It started to. Young adult fiction is punchier. It takes more risks. It can take risks because it's a new form. Really, it just became popular in like the 1990s, 2000s. And so that leads it, since it's taking more risks, that a lot more adults want to read these books, as we see, like, you know, with Hunger Games and Divergent and book series like that, which are really good. So also another thing that's interesting that I found interesting in this Terribleminds blog post is that they say that young adults are writing for themselves. So like teens are starting to write for themselves and self-publish on Amazon, which I think is amazing. I think anytime, I mean, I don't even care if they're good. I think it's amazing that they're writing these books and they're posting them. And so anything that can get kids into literature, anything that can get kids into writing is well worth it and really, really important. And that's why I like this genre so much, because I really believe it is important, and it's important for more than just teenagers. It's also important for adults who get a lot of joy from reading them. Okay, thanks everybody. Bye.